Next time I'll actually have a real podcast mic, so I should be able to hear.
So it's fine. The chilling.
The planet's lost orbit! It's falling!
Okay, this episode tested me.
This is testing our podcast.
Because we really brought this podcast back with the explicit purpose of being excited about Doctor Who and being happy.
Welcome to the Impossible Podcast. We're coming live to you from the Impossible Planet. Might be hard to see, but we're right in the pit with Satan, question mark. Hi, my name is Wendela.
My name is Clara. For reference, since we're orbiting a black hole, we need to be quick with the summary this time. So I'm gonna give Wendela 2.5 minutes.
Please.
3 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go.
We leave off from the last episode with the Doctor and Belinda trying to go home. We see the Doctor and Belle exchanging proper introductions while the Doctor is preparing a Vindicator, a device that will help them to go home after making a few stops. They land in 1952 Florida next to a closed-off movie theater. After getting their data, the Doctor convinces Belle to stay and investigate this theater. As it is the dead of the night, they decide to go to the diner next doors, where they find a lonely woman watching the theater through the window. Her son disappeared in the middle of a movie amongst 14 other people 3 months ago. The theater has been locked down since, and they find out that the theater caretaker, Reginald, is still around playing movies for an empty house. Belinda and the Doctor breaks in to find a 2D cartoon come to life on stage performing as us, the audience, see Reginald trying to signal that they should leave. The cartoon uses catchphrase, "Don't make me laugh," and while the Doctor is fascinated by this and this character being made of light, he questions this phrase. The cartoon reveals the laugh, and we recognize this laugh as the Harbinger laugh, connected to the Celestial Toymaker and the rest of the Pantheon. This tells us that whoever it is a godlike being. We get to know this being as Lux, god of light. Lux focuses on taking the Doctor's unique Time Lord energy, and they escape. They find Reginald, who explains that Lux lets him reunite with his late wife through the same powers that makes Lux come out through the big screen and not just stay 2D, but only as long as Reginald keeps playing for the theater, even though there's no one there. Lux again catches up to them and captures Belle and 15 in a movie world. After some problem solving and opening up about the Doctor's real past, they go from 2D to 3D, they break the fourth wall, finding a fictional Doctor Who audience who helps them work out some plot themes that they can use to defeat Lux. There's a sad moment because the audience will stop existing when they exit this fictional 4D wall break. Finally, they escape the movie world. They face Lux again, now equipped with the notion that Lux will be able to drown himself in energy through sunlight. While the Doctor is captured, Belle finds Reginald and he helps her blow a hole in the building with the flammable film tapes. Doing this exposes Lux to sunlight, giving this goofy scene of him growing out and kind of disintegrating into nothingness. The 15 disappeared people reappear. Mother and son is reunited. Belle and 15 can leave. Mrs. Flood, the perpetual neighbor of companions and notorious fourth wall breaker, appears, pointing to the TARDIS, and calls it a show that will end on May 24th. While the ending credits roll, the fictional audience break the fourth wall again and realize that they did in fact not stop existing, leaving us with several mysteries.
How did you do? That was amazing. It was precisely under 3 minutes.
Oh my goodness. How did this episode make us feel?
So I was watching this episode with my boyfriend, who has seen my favourite Doctor Who episodes exclusively. So, you know, when you're showing somebody your favourite show, it's a little bit vulnerable, it's a little bit nervy, and you're hoping the episode is going to be really good. And I think that put me in the mindset of being a little bit more critical than I had to be. So on my rewatch, I tried to think about the reviews and how good they were, and I tried to be really positive, and I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more on my rewatch. It made me feel disappointed. Like, I'm gonna be real. There was so much about it that was good. The visual effects are amazing. The whole episode is beautiful, and especially the animation on Lux at the ending is just breathtaking. It's so scary, it's so cool. But I think the main feeling I had at the end was just disappointed. I especially hated the parts where they were talking to, where they pretend that they're outside the reality and it's a show and they're fans, you're talking to fans. I was like, oh! I'm sure we'll get into that, but so my initial thoughts were it made me feel a little bit disappointed. I have to be honest. On second rewatch, I was a lot happier.
I was actually a bit worried about the like how would I feel showing this to someone else, because I had the opposite experience of watching it. I was sitting at home, I just cleaned my apartment. This was like I have no stakes in anything, just sitting down to relax, putting on an episode. I thought it was kind of fun. I think for me this episode really made clear some things that I didn't really know that I thought about Doctor Who. Like, it really clarified some of my Doctor Who opinions. Like, I really saw what I like and don't like in a Doctor Who episode, and both present in this episode. So I think just to have that reflection, it has to have done something right, and especially the visuals. If the last episode was audio and soundtrack, this episode was all visuals and wardrobe, like, in love with it.
Yeah, it also really made me think about what I like about Doctor Who. I think every time you see an episode that doesn't vibe with you, you really start reflecting about, you get nostalgic, you start thinking about the stuff you like about the show. I recently watched the Maestro episode, The Devil's Cord, with my sister, and I remember just being so proud showing that up because it has everything I like. It plays with sound, it plays with form, it breaks rules, the audio cuts out, it's funny, and it has such a giant scope. Like, you really get to see the planet rotting and everything, and in this episode we only have 15 people die. It just doesn't feel as weighty, and I think despite it being so pretty, I thought it could have been, it didn't have to be a Pantheon episode. It didn't feel like a Pantheon episode to me. And I think that if you're going to have really big villains, the episode should feel bigger. And it made me think of stories from the Pantheon that I prefer. I think the Maestro episode was a lot more up my alley.
I really disliked the season's finale of last season, so it definitely cleared the bar for me in that regard.
Same.
I think this episode was, it's like you're saying, it's not that big feeling, like it feels like one of those episodes where they limit the set to a very like 2 or 3 rooms and they still build up like a big world. I referenced Knock Knock when we were talking before recording this. I get the same feeling of that when they're confined to one little area and they have to figure something out and it turns out to be very goofy. It's definitely one of those episodes for me.
To me, Knock Knock is an excellent example because I felt like this had similar scope and similarly a really clever idea with the cartoon coming to life. It's excellent, like it looks so good, and I think what lets it down for me is the fact that this is meant to be a Pantheon villain, this is meant to be a god, and still we're only in a small confined space and with one clever idea. I think I would have preferred it to be more of a one-off villain rather than a Pantheon episode because it kind of disappointed me with the scope. Like, them going into these parallel universes and having to pull down the film, like, they really don't do enough, I feel like, with that. They could have explored the spaces a lot more. They could have done a green screen thing, they could have gone to different locations. It felt like, and in that part as well, like, what's really good about the Devil Cord is that Maestro is everywhere. Even in regular scenes where Maestro kind of disappears, where their threat is kind of diffused and in the background, I don't know if you remember, but like, you'll see Maestro in the reflection of a spoon, you'll see Maestro in the reflection of the water, and they're always there in the background creeping around. And I felt like in this episode, when Lux wasn't physically there, he just disappeared. He wasn't there, he wasn't a looming threat, he didn't feel as dangerous as Maestro.
I think you're really pointing out some of the things I didn't like about this episode, and I totally agree with you. But for me, I think there are 2 main things that I really like. I'm not sure you're gonna agree with me on the first one. So this was actually the first episode where I've really come to like the Pantheon. Like, it feels like we're not abandoning it. Like, it feels like we're kind of taking, because Another thing I don't like about this episode is that they leave a bunch of loose threads. They introduce Reginald and his dead wife. I'm not sure why, because she doesn't really matter.
She does come back and give the matches to him, or like the lighter, and kind of gives up her existence.
It's more of him having a personal journey, but then I don't really know why he's important to the story. He's there to be like a mystery. And also another thing, they say about the locks on the theater being, they're really strong. Like, why would they have done that? They didn't really set up the fact that someone is afraid that something's gonna get out, and by the end, nothing is really at threat of getting out. So why would someone chain it up?
Yeah, because Lux stays inside, like he would never leave. Because the whole point is that he hides because too much light would make him expand and disappear. I think the locks are probably there to create a sense of dread and mystery. And probably if you hadn't seen any promotional material before and you didn't know that it was just going to be like a little silly cartoon, maybe you were meant to feel a sense of dread over the locks. But I agree with you that it feels like things don't really gel together, and I think it ties together with the fact that the scope is 15 people disappeared, not really there's a big evil monster in there that's going to get out.
And also with the clips in the beginning of showing the flammability of the tapes doesn't really make a satisfying conclusion for me. Like, they used it to blow a hole in the theater, yes, but they could have done that through other means. I feel like it wasn't really necessary to have the tapes to do that. They could have just said, oh, the TARDIS has a bomb in it, and like it would have resolved the plot by itself that way too. No, I don't feel like everything was really there to like have a big weight, like even the plot devices, like not just the characters that went missing or things like that, but just the way things are planted into the plot don't really fully resolve in a way that is satisfying. It isn't the same kind of satisfying factor as the Robot Revolution. In contrast to that, I feel like the way they bring back the Harbinger laugh, and the way they bring back the Pantheon, and the way they bring back references to you're honor bound to explain why you're here, and also the way Lux throws in this nugget of the other people in Pantheon left you for me to consume. It feels like Lux became a real character for me in that way, and I think it cements the Pantheon, and it ties up loose strings that I've had with the whole Pantheon and the Celestial Toymaker and the whole overarching thing going on. I feel like this episode really sold me that this is what we're doing now, and in a way, there are certain through lines of different seasons that I've liked before, like the planets in the sky. Like, we hear the different planets going missing, and it's kind of silly and goofy, but by the end of it, it all comes together, and for me, the Pantheon is becoming that now, so it feels pretty satisfying just for that reason.
I think on the theme of selling the Pantheon, me personally, I'm a lot more stuck on a space base episode girl, and the planets disappearing from season 4 is a lot more up my alley. It's a lot more sci-fi, it's a lot more existential, and it's a lot less goofy. I think the reason I like the Maestro episode so much, the Devil's Cord, is that the villain is so eccentric and fun and present and mature and scary. If we compare that to Lux, who's a lot more goofy and maybe a lot more child-friendly, it just doesn't really vibe with me. I think making the choice to bring back the Celestial Toymaker it sounds great on paper, but what we've gotten is essentially a stock character villain that is really cartoonish, and I'm just not sure that works for me. In a sense, like if we step back and think thematically of where the show is now, considering the fact that it's on Disney now and it has Disney money being pumped into it, it makes sense. Like, I understand why Russell T Davies went down this path of establishing the reoccurring threat of a fantasy villain. Like, I see it, it makes sense on paper. I just don't think that's my favorite brand of Doctor Who, unfortunately. Like, I saw that the point in the episode that I was the most excited about was when we saw the flash forwards to the next episode, like the teaser, for like a more dark, mysterious episode set in space. Like, that's much more up my alley. And I just think that it's going to be really hard to get fans like me excited about these kinds of episodes, unfortunately. That being said, there are a lot of aspects of this episode that I love that I'm sure we're going to get into.
I 100% agree with you that I got really excited seeing the preview of the next episode. Like, that seems so exciting. It's giving so many like favorite episodes. I hope it's gonna be good. But I actually think in a clever way that RGD is playing into his strengths, bringing the Pantheon in and going in a magical direction, and not really writing the most clever, science-y, time travel-y plot lines, and bringing in something that is more soft and more magical. I think it's kind of smart for him, like, writing something that he feels more confident in, and I'm mostly concerned with feeling sold on the whole plot being one cohesive thing, and I think it brings in a mystery that I feel can be satisfyingly resolved. So I think it could be good, but so far I kind of like it. But another thing that I did really like about this episode, and to have this make sense, I have to bring in a point that I've been stuck on from Chibnall, a quote from him where he said, "The Doctor is the best when they're running around putting out fires." I don't know if you remember that quote, but it really, I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and it definitely did that for me. And I've been hung up on it because I can't really explain what I really like about what makes the Doctor great. But in this episode, I think we really got the things that make the Doctor great, which for me is when he's not really trying to figure something out, but more fucking around and finding out. He's just engaging with a mystery until it solves itself. And in this mystery especially, I don't think the Doctor really solves anything. He's just like, it's day outside. That's all he does. He just fucks around and finds out. But it really works for the character, and also we're so spoiled with Verida and Julie acting together. That just makes it all come together, and just seeing actors shine is always a pleasure. So I think those are two elements that I really need for this episode to work.
I think the acting is stellar. I think you really see the two main leads shine in, like, exploring voice acting, for instance, when they are cartoons and they do this much more cartoonish voice inflection. I think you see how well they shine. I think also Chuti has the choreography down. Like, when he tells Belinda, it's a haunted house and a da-da-da-da-da, like, he has a little choreography going on, and I think his physical, like the way he physically takes up space and guides you through the plot is great. It's always really fun seeing them adjust based on the theme of the episode. That's always amazing to see the actors shine in a new format, and one of the most fun things about Doctor Who is that you have a new premise, a new movie, a new theme, a new idea every episode, and you really get to see not only the actors but also the writers and the directors and the set designers flex new skills. So that's always fun, and you almost never get disappointed when you have such a stellar cast. So obviously that's always going to be a big highlight for me.
Do you want to get into some lesser points that might have been like highs or lows contradicting things you've said before, or just random details that you want to highlight or pick on as pet peeves?
I recently rewatched some Jodie Whittaker episodes with my boyfriend because he was nagging me, like, I want to see Jodie Whittaker, I want to understand why that era is so hated. So we watched Demons of the Punjab together, and obviously he didn't like it. He was like, the shots are terrible, there's so many close-ups. But I found myself really defending Chibnall's vision, as I often do. And one thing that I come back to over and over again that I really appreciate with Chibnall's legacy as a showrunner is cementing some historical facts. Like, Moffat would kind of dance around, and Russell T Davies as well, having companions of colour go back in history and being confronted with differing views, being confronted with segregation, being confronted with racism. But I think no showrunner has ever done it so confidently and so strongly as Chibnall. And I think Russell T Davies came back this time and was like, yeah, I'm going to continue doing that. And having segregation be not only something they mentioned for brownie points, but also kind of being sort of central to the plot, I think is brilliant. Like, the doctor looking down at his hand and being like, maybe it's good that we're here at 4 a.m. Love that. Being in the cafe and having one of the characters say, is it okay that we break the rules? And him looking at Belinda and being like, this is just, this isn't my fight. This is your fight. Your planet has to do this at your time. I think that's great. And I think it gives a weight to the show. It gives a reality check. It's not as goofy as Martha going back in the Shakespeare code and being like, am I fine? And David Tennant being like, yeah, well, I'm an alien, and like, I'm fine. And it's like, yeah, but you're an alien, and you're also a white guy, like, come on. So I always appreciate when they bring that stuff in.
They put it in a way that is integral to the storytelling. They don't skirt around it at all, but also they don't make it the central focus of the episode, as there's already too many loose threads in this episode, so they don't have to engage with it too much, and it helps the episode to not do that. But I think it's really good that they didn't leave it out whatsoever, like earlier Doctor Who seasons have done.
And on the theme of realism and realistic time travel, I really like the mention of HIV at the beginning, and Belinda saying, we did him in school, and it's sad going back knowing what happens to him. And I feel like that's really a thing that a real human would think about when you go back in time. You would reflect over those things, you would look around and be like, oh my god, I know that this person is going to die, or I know that this is going to be a huge war. Like, my boyfriend also made the joke about, where was the doctor during the Holocaust? And I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's one of those things that you forget as a fan who watches Doctor Who all the time, that time travel does pose these sort of questions all the time. And I think it's naturalistic and realistic in a way that isn't annoying.
This is a much more satisfying way of doing it, like saying that this is something you have to figure out on your own timeline, rather than the Stephen Moffat writing of, no, it's a fixed point in time. I think this is a more realistic way of approaching it for the Doctor. That doesn't make sense. Sorry.
So if I'm gonna mention two of my biggest pet peeves, number one, I didn't like Lux's ladies, like the two like film rolling machines, send them into the animation reality. I thought it was goofy. I didn't think it was scary. I thought that maybe the God of Light would have a little bit of danger himself. Like, why does he need to use technology?
And he's stuck in this theater. How godlike is he?
He doesn't feel like a god. Like, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't feel that scary. He's creepy. Like, you could have done so much with him. I just felt like the toy maker was able to manipulate matter, and the maestro was able to trap people in instruments and make notes dance all over the place and manipulate people, drag them all over the place. Like, they felt menacing. But I felt like this guy is overpowered in the sense that he is all of light, but underpowered in the sense that he can't really do much. And I felt like that could have been explored a little bit more. It could have been ironed out a little bit more carefully in the writing process. What can Lux actually do? And why is he actually scary? So that was one of my pet peeves. I was like, really?
On Lux being this, I want to call him like underbaked. It makes me wonder if he's some kind of imposter, and my brain started thinking that maybe this is, and now I'm gonna feel like a Stephen Moffat fan of like detective work, why is it actually good when it's bad? For me, at least, I feel like maybe this is intentional, and that there is a reason for him being so underwhelming, because at the end they kind of kill him, but did they make him like ascend into an actual god? Like, I feel like there is more to the story and more to the Pantheon, adding this Lux character who is not at all as great as the other gods of the Pantheon. I think maybe there is some intentionality in it, and my brain engages a lot with the fact that this episode has so many messy, loose ties.
Also, what was Lux's motivation? I know they kind of joke about that at the end, but at first, first of all, why did he kidnap those 15 people? He's trying to immortalize them.
Oh, why were they released?
I'm trying to think, I've seen it 2 times now, but what was his point? I understand his motivation once he tries to materialize himself using the Doctor. That makes sense to me. But what the hell was he even doing in that cinema to begin with? He was just freezing people in rolls of film for shits and giggles.
And he I'm gonna say defeated in quotation marks, because he defeated himself in the end.
But the thing is, he wasn't defeated, he just went back to what he was in the beginning. Because in the beginning, he was just out in the moonlight chilling, and then he gets kind of transported through the film roll into the character of Mr. Ring-a-Ding, who already exists, which was confirmed by the fact that a character says, "Is that Mr. Ring-a-Ding?" So the character already exists, the God of Light gets transported into him because he wants to take form, he wants to take shape. I feel like it could have been workshopped a little bit more. In one of these meetings, they could have talked about it a little bit more and more clearly establish what the point of him coming here was.
I had a question with that also, he came in through the moonlight, but the first thing he says is, "I don't care about sunlight, I want to talk about moonlight." But then in the end, he actually consumes some sunlight and is like, "Oh yes, this is great." Some of the things that Lux say in the beginning doesn't make sense whatsoever.
Well, I think, if I'm gonna be a Moffat fan and do detective work about why this is actually secretly really good, I think the God of Light is too expansive and too everywhere to ever be concentrated in a shape and to ever be concentrated in a purpose, right? And moonlight is a reflection of sunlight, meaning that it's a simpler form for the God of Light to exist in. And he manages to find a shape through this character, Mr. Ring-a-Ding, right? That makes sense to me, that works. But why does he kill those 15 people? Because it's almost like his undoing is going back to his original form, his most expansive form. But couldn't he just come back? Couldn't he just come back into the moonlight again? And why wouldn't he just do that if he's so obsessed about being real and taking a form?
And why doesn't this pose a bigger threat now that he's...
I'm hoping that they bring Lux back, and I'm hoping that they give him a chance to maybe occupy a scarier character and maybe show us push the limits a little bit more of what a God of Light could imply for the world, for the universe, because I felt like it just seemed way too small to make sense. There is some interesting stuff here thematically, and there's some interesting stuff about Lux as a character to think about, but I felt like it wasn't properly communicated in the episode. And I, on the one hand, am a Doctor Who fan, so I am very equipped with creating a good episode in my head as opposed to being satisfied with what I'm shown. But I've been so continuously impressed by Russell T Davies and his ability to create fully formed villains and threats that this just felt like a disappointment for being a Pantheon episode.
For that Stephen Moffat detective work, why is it actually good, and what is the mastermind thing about this? I would approach that with thinking that Lux maybe is a pet character to these other characters of the Pantheon, and I really hope that's what it is. I think this poses a contrast to the other Pantheon characters. If that is what they're gonna take away from this, I would feel very satisfied with that takeaway, but we haven't seen it yet, so I'm not gonna go out and say it's all fine. But I think that is one of the reasons why this episode doesn't leave me having a weird taste in my mouth. It leaves me with mysteries that my brain kind of wants to engage with, and then also kind of have a relationship that is just, oh, it's just Doctor Who. It's weird. It's not really gonna make sense. And I'm fine with that feeling.
I'm wondering if we should talk about the elephant in the room, which is Doctor Who going full meta.
You are so allowed to do that.
Let's draw a parallel to another show who went on for 15 seasons and decided to make everything really meta.
I was so gonna bring it up too.
I knew it, girl. We are like this right now. So when Supernatural does it, they kind of run into the same issue. They make their fans really unlikable. They do it recurringly in that show, but at least in Supernatural, they have the balls to actually commit. It has been a theory among Doctor Who fans who have watched the new Russell T Davies era since day one that Doctor Who is actually a TV show IRL, and the Doctor is aware of this. If we talk about the Devil's Court again, him saying, I thought that music was non-diegetic, and a lot of people thinking that maybe there'll be a pantheon god of TV to kind of make this meta thing, because I feel like it's one of these pitfalls that shows that bend the rules and are supernatural and come up with new ideas, eventually they go meta. And I feel like every time that happens, they jump the shark and it becomes really frustrating and annoying and itchy in the brain. It's like, I don't want to think about this. But it felt like they didn't even have the balls to commit to that, because they go back on it immediately. They go into this separate reality where there are real life Doctor Who fans who tell them that it's a TV show, and they cut immediately to all of them sitting around drinking tea and being like super casual about it. It's like, really? Would that really happen? I feel like, first of all, wouldn't the Doctor have figured out himself immediately what the fuck this was? And also, why are the fans so boring? Also, why, if you're gonna go meta and if you're gonna have small little nuggets earlier on in the show of breaking the fourth wall continuously, why not commit? Why soft launch it like this? Because you can never do this again now. You can never make Doctor Who a TV show again without this being a massive shadow over it. Also, sorry to the people that they got to act as the fans, but they are so boring. I don't like their acting style. They're so wooden. They don't seem like real Doctor Who fans at all. I mean, sorry, a real Doctor Who fan would never say Blink as their favourite episode. Please.
They act like Doctor Who is really big. It's 2014. Comic-Con is making the rounds on news, because why would anyone be fans of anything in nerd culture is super exoticized and things like that. That's what it's giving to me. Like, this is not contemporary fan culture to me.
Supernatural did this like 10 years ago and it didn't even work then. Why do it now? It feels so dated. Like, making commentary on nerd culture now without actually commentating on how, like, what the state of the fandom actually is. It felt like the Robot Revolution had a finger on the pulse. It kind of felt current in its reference to incels, in its reference to gender relations. It felt very fresh. This feels like Russell T Davies wrote it 10 years ago and just brought it back now without thinking it through. It feels just sort of like Russell T Davies doesn't really understand where the fandom is. It would have made sense 10 years ago. It would have made sense if Doctor Who was a show-stopping event at Comic-Con. It's not. Like, I remember when the 60th anniversary was being announced, going to my local sci-fi bookshop and being like, do you have any Doctor Who merch? Because I want to buy some for like a dinner that I want to have for my friends. And there being absolutely nothing. Like, it's a dying show. If you're gonna be meta, at least be fucking realistic and be real about what the state of the fandom is. The irony isn't lost on me that we're saying that this portrayal of fans is outdated while we're sitting in front of literally every piece of Doctor Who merch that we own. Like, but we are old. Like, we're in our 20s and we bought most of this merch when we were kids. Like, I don't know, it just feels like if you're going to put up a mirror to the audience and you're going to show them who they really are, don't show them don't put a 2014 filter on it. I don't know, like, it didn't sit right with me, I didn't like it, and I felt like now I have to sit down and actually be the podcast person. And is this how Russell T Davies sees me? Really? I don't know if I like
I
that.
was really scared going into when they did the fourth wall break, and then seeing the fans of the show, like, that made my heart sink, because I've seen too much Supernatural. I grew up watching Supernatural, and it is such a degrading depiction of fandom culture. Like, the first interaction we have with fans in Supernatural, for anyone who hasn't watched it, is two Supernatural fans that we've read all the books, we watched the show, and it's this weird gay couple. They are in a relationship centered about the two of them taking on the roles of supernatural Winchester brothers, and their sex life is centered around this incest couple. That is why it's weird. It is such a weird depiction of fandom culture. Supernatural just made it so bad that it's always gonna linger in the back of my mind that it's gonna turn out that way again, and at least they didn't do that, which is nice, but I don't know. It's always gonna linger.
I just feel like, why do it? Like, why do showrunners have this impulse to go meta? Like, they do that in Rick and Morty too. Like, they make the intelligent main character comment on the fact that they're in a show all the time. I don't understand the self-absorbed writer's itch of commentating on the fact that their thing is really popular on the outside and has crazy fans. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it in a way that works. I simply don't like it.
I think it always makes fans look crazy. It always degrades the fans a little bit, no matter how you do it, because it's always gonna box people in.
Why, in, like, Doctor Who Fan 91, I think we're gonna be mentioning him in every episode. He made a good point in his reaction that, like, including fandom is always risky because fandom sucks. Fandom is scary, fandom does not agree about anything and disapproves of everything that a showrunner does, and I feel like, why open yourself up to that criticism? You know, like, it's so unnecessary. It doesn't feel clever, it doesn't feel big and exciting. Like, I way prefer those small little gags of, like, I thought that music was non-diegetic, or having a character turn to the screen and say, you didn't see me. Like, that's funny, that makes sense, we like that. We don't like an entire extended cutscene where you forget about the meat of the episode, focusing on a depiction of fans that's outdated, and also, like, having this emotional sequence of them dying. You could have done that with people who were not Doctor Who fans. You could have had that entire sequence with just characters who thought they were real, who are trying to help Doctor Who. Like, I would have way preferred this part of the episode being Belinda and the Doctor going into alternate realities and realizing that they're all fake and that they're all plot elements. Like, that could have been interesting. That could have felt big and exciting. But this just left me with such a sour taste in my mouth, and it must be related to the fact that Wendela and I have negative experience with other media, and that isn't necessarily Russell T Davies' fault. It's just, maybe think it through. Like, what's the purpose? Why do this? It's never been well received before.
They could have just done the actual good supernatural plot when they walk out through the fourth wall and they end up on a TV set. That would have been a much better approach. And, like, I know it's a direct. They did it in Supernatural, so it's fine, but it works because it doesn't depict the fans.
Exactly. The reason it works is that it's fictional. It's a fictional reality. Fictional actors within the show, not the real actors, not the real fans. I think that would have been preferable. Like, if you're going to make Doctor Who a canon TV show in the Doctor Who universe, then make it different from how it is IRL. That just makes more sense in my opinion, or just don't even go there.
Actually, why would the Doctor know that the episode of Blink is the episode of Blink? When they say Blink is my favorite episode, why would the Doctor know what Blink is? Because the Doctor isn't in Blink? And also, why would he categorize that chapter of events as Blink? Because it's his life.
And okay, on that point, if the Doctor is clever enough to know that when they say Blink, they mean the Weeping Angels saga of his life, why wouldn't he immediately guess that these people are gonna die and they're not real and actually... Like, do you understand what I mean? I understand why he wants to empower these fan characters to the extent that they realize themselves that they're fictional, like they don't actually exist. And he puts in this line of like, we're clever, we're thinking like the Doctor, and we know da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, I understand that he wants to empower the fans and make fans feel clever and special, but I would have preferred it if it was the Doctor to call out all the bullshit and be like, wait a minute, this isn't real. And I don't know why. I just think that I don't like the fan characters at all.
I think it was just a bad move overall to display people as fans of the show and then the Doctor interacting with it. I don't really see any way out of that setup that will actually be satisfying for me to watch. I'm always gonna be disappointed with that.
Yeah, no, same. And I think that I don't think there's anything more to add to that, despite the fact that the whole concept in and of itself is misguided.
Yeah, basically. I am gonna defend it a little bit in saying that it didn't turn out as bad as it could have. I would like for everything to stay as the fans are the fictional components, but by the end of episode 4th wall break, that doesn't seem to be the case. I can see it work out for like this season and maybe next season, because I think all of this goes back to Wide Blue Yonder storyline where they say you start playing with superstition at the edge of the universe, you might invite in something that was not welcome. Like maybe they do a sealing off the universe to that. But since they brought that element in, I think it's kind of fun to play and engage with it. But I really need them to retcon it at some point. The supernatural brain in me wants this to not escalate into the supernatural problem that they face by season 1,000,000 of Supernatural, where it's like, in the beginning they question, can we work with angels? This is out of our scope. And then by like the middle of the show, like not even the last seasons, they're like knocking on the door of literal Satan, who's having an emotional fit over some trivial problem. Like, it turns goofy immediately. I really need Doctor Who to not do that. The mechanics of Doctor Who lends itself really well to accidentally break into a universe where this is true. And maybe that is the throwaway reference of Mavity, like we're living in this universe now, and then we get back to it, like how they did with the parallel universe being referenced several times, but then they again seal off that universe. And having these parallel universes interact is actually a bad thing, but it's okay to do for a little while to have the story going, but then we can go back to like a regular scheduling.
Yeah, because what's good about Doctor Who, if we compare it to Supernatural, is that it is written, or like all the mechanics are there, they're put in place for the show to go on forever. And every time there's a showrunner change, every time there's a new Doctor, there's sort of this sense of a new parallel universe being created. And Russell T Davies started that by bringing in the Pantheon and by, like you said, putting superstitions at the end of the universe that infuses the universe with magic that can be undone, in the same way that the crack in the middle of the universe is no longer a thing from Moffat's run. Doctor Who writers from the modern era have this tendency of going really bold with their world building and having a universe spanning plot, but we can always step away from that. Like, it's never permanent, which is nice. And for us as not super sold people on the Pantheon, that's always relaxing. It's always like calming to be like, it's not always going to be this way. Not that I hate it that much, but like, it's just simply not my favorite. I was thinking though, when you brought in that reference from Wild Blue Yonder, and also the fact that at the end of the episode the 3 fans are actually still alive, I'm getting a little bit worried that they might come back and be important.
I really hope they're not gonna come back and be important. I do definitely believe that the fact that they're still alive is gonna come back.
And that brings me back to me writing fan fiction on the fly about perhaps if they weren't fans and they were just fictional characters from their own little world, that could have been interesting. But as it is now, I'm not looking forward to any of that being revisited. I'm not looking forward to this era of Doctor Who having fans as recurring characters, or having fourth wall breaks, having like writers from the real world or fans from the real world or concepts from the real world coming back and being like a regular part of the show. If that's where Russell T Davies wanted to go with invoking magic into the world, I'm not sold on that at all. I much prefer the Pantheon to that nightmare scenario of having recurring fans. Like, oh my god, please, no.
You're bringing up the worst fears in me, and now I'm so not excited to watch the show.
No, okay. Remember the preview for the next episode.
Yeah. So true. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna have alien planets. Because that is another thing. We haven't had any... We had the robots. For sure, that is a type of new alien. I don't really feel like it might be alien tech, but it isn't like a full-fledged alien.
I want an alien too. Like, I want a cool alien design. Sue me! Oh my god, sue me! Yeah, it's literally only been 2 episodes. Like, I'm sure there are gonna be aliens, but like, going back and watching some Jodie Whittaker stuff and remembering how well designed and how pretty the aliens were in that run. Like in Demons of the Punjab, for instance, the design, the clothes, the prosthetics, the aliens look so good. And if there was something Russell T Davies really did in his first run, it was create super iconic alien villains, and I feel like we did not have that last season at all. Like, what were the aliens of season 1?
Can I do a little bit of a tangent based on literally nothing? Something that is really appreciated about the most recent era is that they haven't really brought in Daleks and Cybermen the way that earlier seasons have. That a lot of people are kind of relieved that it isn't just hammering down these super tired aliens. Like they are important to the DNA of Doctor Who, but they can feel kind of tired when they're just brought in to collect like nostalgia points for fans. Contrasting with Chibnall's era, the worst thing I think about that era is when they bring back the Master and the Cybermen. Even though we, during the 12th Doctor's run, brought back the Master and the Cybermen, like, just before that.
And having that be every finale for so long, like, obviously it gets tired, and we love seeing new aliens. Like, the reason the Ood became so iconic was because it was an excellent design and a new idea, and it really stuck with people, and that was a new alien that was invented during that time, introduced in the Impossible Planet episode, and I think that we need more of that. We need more iconic new creatures, new villains being introduced, and obviously we appreciate when a showrunner listens to that type of critique and implements it. I liked Sutek as a concept, not a big fan of those finale episodes.
Execution, no.
And also, at some point you do need to return to the Daleks and the Cybermen and all the iconic bits. Like, they are mainstays for a reason. They're iconic for a reason. And if we think of the Robot Revolution and Al, the AI generator, how similar thematically is that not to the Cybermen? So, like, obviously we appreciate when there's a new vision and there's a new take on the show, but you also need to land that ship.
I think that just because it is hard to write, the solution isn't to just stop writing it. The solution is to maybe do it more sparingly so you can write it with good quality when you actually do write it. And right now we're just not doing either of those. We're just avoiding the topic as a whole, and that is not really a good solution for it. So I really hope they're bringing in aliens sometime soon.
Yeah, like I want an alien. I want a good, nasty, slimy alien with tentacles. Like, is that too much to ask? Like, I'm watching the Alien show, the Alien time travel show, you know?
I wouldn't mind them bringing back the ooze. I love the ooze.
Zooming on this guy, still in the package.
The other thought that I didn't want to run straight into of pure tangents. We talked a little bit about these, the ability for Doctor Who to soft retcon itself, and having all those mechanics. And a thought that occurred to me is one thing that they have introduced that is not possible to just retcon or reset in any way is the timeless child plot, which we discussed last podcast episode. We discussed a little bit how they decided to keep that in the story, and I'm starting to think of maybe they don't bring it into the season, because I feel like that brings it into danger territory of bringing it into this story that I want to be retconned.
That's a good point. And I think every time a showrunner swings and sort of misses and actually interacts with the building blocks that goes deeper than what is resettable, it presents a lot of fears for the fans, because if you don't like it, you know. I have hopes that Russell T Davies is a competent enough writer that he can do something interesting with the Timeless Child stuff. I'm not sure if because personally, like, I don't mind the Timeless Child. Like, I honestly, I think the hate towards that reveal was overblown, and I don't mind it. I really don't. I think you could do some really interesting stuff with it. I like lore, I like thinking about stuff, and I like the fact that the Doctor has kind of new mythology in new eras of the show. Like, it doesn't make me very uncomfortable. I just hope that if they bring it back, they do it cleverly and in a fun way. And I'm not sure if having a character who's been looking into the camera and going every episode is the right way to land that ship. So I understand why you're apprehensive.
I want the Pantheon and the Timeless Child to be disconnected, because I like the Timeless Child, but I don't like the Pantheon sticking around for too long because of the implications we're seeing with interaction with fans, and like having this Doctor Who is a real TV show and we're just living in a fictional, like, because I want to keep one of them and and let the other one go at some point. That's why I'm afraid to bring in the Timeless Child at this point. So if that comes in, I'm gonna be scared. That's all I'm saying.
I think another fear of bringing in the Timeless Child at this point is that this might be the last season of Doctor Who we get for a long time, depending on how it does and how Disney what Disney feels about keeping the show alive in this format. Bringing the Timeless Child in might really sour people, especially fans, on this whole era. So it would be risky, and not sure if it would be worth it.
I want to bring up two silly little points, and then I want to ask you if you had anything like more specific that you want to bring up about the episode. I didn't mention at all that I really liked the character that they meet in the diner. I really like, I don't know what it is with the way they've written her or in the way they characterize her. Like, I really buy her as a character, and when she's reunited with her son at the end, it felt really real to me. So I feel like they executed that really well, if it's the acting, if it's character design, or whatever it is. But when they speak to her, she mentions no one has gone near that theater until that blue box appeared. And I don't know if that spiked your spidey senses, but to me that is really weird. And why is the Doctor not reacting to this? Like, doesn't it have a chameleon circuit? why is she able to see the TARDIS? This is like super established Doctor Who lore. Like, people do not see the TARDIS in that way. I thought that was so weird, and I really want to get that resolved at some point. I'm hoping that is a nugget for us to think about. But that just spiked all my spidey senses.
No, but that's a good point. I never thought of that. Like, I remember thinking, like, did she see the wah, wah, wah? Because, like, the way perception fields work is that unless you're explicitly told to pull your attention to a certain point, you won't do it automatically. So it makes sense that at the end, people look at the TARDIS and go, how did they do that? Because that lady that keeps coming back tells them, look at this. I wonder if it's just that that character is so focused around this place and so focused around having somebody do something about finding her son that makes her pay attention to the TARDIS. Or it could be something, I hope it is something more recurring, something more interesting in terms of like the TARDIS taking up space and maybe the chameleon effect not really being there. Because I felt like one thing Russell T Davies hasn't done that much is explore the mythology of the character, the mythology of who the Doctor is. Like, obviously there's Unit, and there's established connection there with Unit, but we don't really know what the layman thinks of the Doctor. Like, in his first run, in the very first season that Russell T Davies wrote, he has the Doctor as like an internet meme or like a conspiracy theory favorite of like, people have actually seen him, people have interacted with him, people have a relationship to him. That's something that Doctor Who hasn't done in a long time, I feel like. They haven't had him as an established character in the world. I would really like it if they brought that back.
They brought him in as president on the Earth.
They did do that, yeah. And it's kind of weird that nobody knows who he is. Maybe we could have a finale episode with clips of the TARDIS landing in different time zones and different planets, and somebody being like, what's going on, like, who is this character?
Meeting the people from 73 Yards that interacted with the TARDIS as like a monument. Like, there's so many people that interacted with the TARDIS.
I think it's also really telling, like, if we're gonna go on a meta commentary on this episode, that we spent most of the time fan fictionizing things that we would like to see. Like, in the last episode we filmed, we were just raving about how good we thought the episode was, and I genuinely do think that this episode wasn't as bad as we've made it seem. Caught on to some things.
It opens a can of worms, and that gives a bad taste, but the episode in itself isn't bad.
Right. No, like if we're being real, the episode in itself looks gorgeous. The animation is great. Like, it's a clever idea. I'm sure that showing it to your baby cousin will be a big hit, you know. But I felt like Russell T Davies lost touch with the fandom a little bit, and that is what is disappointing. And I wish we could have spent an hour and a half talking about everything we liked, but if you're going to take such a big swing, if you're going to do such a bold move as to break the fourth wall in that way, you're going to have to take the shit that comes with it, I feel like.
It's gonna stir up emotions in people, especially as, like, I'm gonna reference, like, 2015 fandom culture a lot, because that is where we come from. But Super Wholock is a thing. You have a lot of overlapping fans with Supernatural, and we know Supernatural is not a critically acclaimed series. It's a comfort series for sure, like, that is one of its strengths, but it being good towards his fans and having like a cinematic impact on the world is not something it's known for. So I feel like because they are so connected, I would expect Russell T Davies to be more aware of the easy to fall down the potholes in this. Like, even interacting with it, I feel like he would have been able to take notes.
I'll also finish with my favourite moment of the show, which is when they are becoming more rounded, clever play on words, where they acquire depth, and Doctor goes on his "My people were genocided" spiel. I love the Time Lords were genocided reference.
I've completely forgot about that part. Even the second time I watched it, I was like, what are they referencing at the end of this episode? I don't know why it didn't stick with me. I feel like they didn't highlight that enough.
I don't know, it stuck with me. Like,
okay, yeah, maybe it's just a me problem, but I feel like they could have gone harder.
well, I really like that reference, and I like that Belinda brings it back, and she's like, you know, we might have said that in a cartoon separate reality, but those fears are real. And the Doctor being scared and alone, being the only Time Lord in the universe, and being the only one who can rectify something big and dangerous, I think that's a clever way to end an adventure and bring the audience's attention back to the season issues, like the issues that we're battling this season. I think that's very clever. I think that moment, it has a lot of purposes, you know. It brings in some lore around the character. It introduces Belinda to some new stuff about the character. We've also gotten shown that Belinda now trusts the Doctor. She literally says, "I'm sorry I didn't trust you before, but I trust you now." And I think her being sympathetic to him being the only Time Lord in the world is a great way to do that. And it also makes me excited about the mystery of this day that they can't land on, and it makes me excited about the finale and like why has the Earth exploded. So I think just to highlight that moment, it was well conceived, it was well written. I thought they could have padded out that sequence with more stuff, but that moment was great. Like it was amazing.
You open up a can of candy worms. Good worms. I'm sorry. I have to, just because you open it up now. I reflected a lot, especially on the interaction between Belinda and the Doctor. First of all, I really like how they are becoming friends, even though they started on such a hostile kind of I don't want to be here point. I like the plot device that the Vindicator is bringing in, because like with previous companions it's usually like, please, I want to go on these adventures. That got me really thinking of how the Doctor's character is growing during this season, has been displaying some things that I really like about the Doctor, which is another thing that I want to highlight about this episode that brought up, like, what do I like about the Doctor? And he has this really scary ability to know exactly what's going on way further ahead of where they are right now, and they don't tell anyone around them that they see all these things like happening in the future, like play mastermind with everyone else's lives. There's this really scary thing about the Doctor if we look at, for example, Matt Smith's Doctor, where he brings them places that are in trouble, but then we see him like tilting away the screen in the TARDIS that tells him like there is a danger on this landing spot. He pushes it away and plays it off to the companions that no worries, like this is gonna be a nice vacation. But it's like playing 5D chess with his friends, like, yeah, I'm bringing you into a certain death trap. And that is the thing I like about the Doctor, that they know danger is about to occur in a place, they know there's a mystery, and it should be scarier than I think I perceive it as a character trait that is like this insatiable excitement for mystery. I believe, we're gonna write more fanfiction now, I believe that the Doctor knew that this theater was around, that there was weird energy coming off of it. He planned to land there at 4 a.m. in the night to be able to explore the place even though there is segregation going on. He is aware when Belinda asks, will I be fine walking out in my pajamas? Because he knows that it's unnecessary for them to dress up, because the second they step out, he says it's 4 a.m, no one is around, would just stop for no one. But we know that the Doctor can usually see whatever's going on outside. There's usually like a preview of what's going on outside. There's no way that he isn't aware that it is 4 a.m. outside and they are dressing up for no one. I think he's manipulating Belinda into going into this mystery with him. And I think the Doctor has done this so many times before in previous seasons, and the Doctor always does this. I really like that about the Doctor, but it's really creepy. And I think Judy's getting to play that a bit more now.
And I think that in the first episode, we talked about that, the aspect of the Doctor being an untrustworthy character, and him having this interest in Belinda, being kind of against her consent, like her not wanting to go on adventures, her not wanting to be there, but then kind of playing with her excitement. That's something the Doctor has done a lot before, and we've always seen Ncuti as a really trustworthy and loving character that puts people in danger by accident, sort of like Jodie Whittaker did, but I always prefer it when we make the Doctor a little bit scary and when we allow people to be afraid of characters, and when we allow people to be afraid of the Doctor.
I don't think Jodie Whittaker's Doctor just accidentally put people in danger. I fully believe, in my fanfiction writing of the story, that she was aware. She just couldn't contain herself. I think so. Which makes it better, like, that is a good trait of the Doctor for me.
It almost makes me feel like it's easier for writers to make a complex character who can be both trustworthy and scary when it is a white man. Like, you don't want to write yourself into a trap of having a duplicitous female character or a manipulative black male character, like. But at the end of the day, the Doctor is who the Doctor is, and the Doctor should be scary and warm at the same time. Like, that's the complexity of that character. And I like this direction of, just like you said, telling Belinda this is the fun bit and dressing up and being like, yeah, I'm Velma and you're Fred, let's go check out this adventure, but then actually putting her in real life danger. That's something that is explored continuously. I recently watched Oxygen, which we also briefly mentioned last podcast episode, and Peter Capaldi and Bill always has this back and forth of Bill being mortally afraid of everything. Like, she's always scared of dying, and the Doctor is always putting her in situations that are threatening and scary. And Moffat explored that a lot and really brought a lot of complexity to the Doctor. And I feel like I prefer it when the Doctor is confronted with that aspect of that character to it being framed as it being an accident. Like, oh my god, guys, I'm so sorry that I put everybody in danger and I almost killed you and, like, we almost didn't get home today. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, can we just have the Doctor own it? I don't know. And having Ncuti manipulate Belinda into sticking with him and adventuring with him because he's interested in her is creepy, it's terrifying, but it is true to the character.
I'm starting to recognize the Doctor all of a sudden. Like, this is, and I don't know why it is, if this is a factor defect of us as Doctor Who fans. Like, why do we enjoy this character being so manipulative and dangerous to the people around him? I think there is something redeemable about it, even though I can't defend why.
Well, okay, so I'll actually give a reason why. The reason why, it's because it's human. Like, imagine if you were immortal and lonely and your entire race had died, and you spend your entire existence zip-zapping from problem to problem and saving people. Somewhere inside of you have a selfish desire to have companionship and to have people around you. And the Doctor continuously seeks companionship, and it's a continuing conundrum for the Doctor that they put people in danger when they bring companions with them. but they also can't help themselves. They are compelled to bond with people. They are compelled to bring people along, to show them the vastness of the universe. And that being brought back is really appreciated. Like, I think it's one of my favorite aspects of the New Who era. So I really hope that there will be a big reveal at the end of the season where Belinda kind of realizes that she's been manipulated by the Doctor to go with her. I really hope she's gonna have one of those classic moments where she almost dies and she explodes at the Doctor and she goes, I can't believe you only wanted me to come with because it's Monday Flynn and da 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 da. I hope that we'll have that kind of tension between them, because obviously we love it when the Doctor and their companions are best friends and they love each other, but we also like when they fight, and people never fought in the Jodie Whittaker era. They were always best friends and they always loved each other. Or at least they always trusted the Doc, right? But I like it when they fight. I think it's more interesting. Yeah, maybe not to the extent that Capaldi and Clara fought. Like, that got tiresome real quick.
I feel like maybe they had exactly one season too much of that.
One season of that particular combo too much. Yeah, definitely.
That's another episode of this podcast. All in all, what is your rating of this episode?
If the last episode was an 8, this would be a 5. It could have been so much better. It's just that whole sequence with the fans, it dragged it down so far for me. It just pissed me off so much. I just really think this will be an episode that I'm not going to rewatch ever. It's gonna be one of those untouchable ones for me.
I'm gonna be sympathetical and give it a 7, mostly because the things that isn't erasable from this episode, like if we just ignore the storyline, the Lux character, and all the interactions we have with Lux in general, we have so many great elements of character exploration, and the production of the episode is really good. The costumes, again, I cannot stop enjoying how they characterize every single character so efficiently with these costumes. That's why I'm gonna give it a 7, and I think I'm gonna rewatch it a lot before the season ends to explore the Pantheon. We just lost another part of the space station. Lost more of it to the black hole. I think we're gonna have to do some maintenance, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Hopefully in the next episode I will have found another microphone. Listen, it was the black hole.
Editing magic. Please say